Good evening. Thank you for being here. We are going to record this, and I'll send it out to all of our families to view. And so I just want to thank everybody that's here tonight. Panhandle Health, Juvenile Probation for Kootenai County, Rathdrum, Post Falls, Spirit Lake, and am I missing anybody? All right, so thank you, and here we go.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. My name is Lonnie Whiteman. I'm with Juvenile Probation, Kootenai County. Ryan asked me and several other of my partners to come and give a talk to Timberlake students and parents just with some of the concerns that we're seeing in our society today for young people. I've been a probation officer for 10 years now. Before that, I was at detention, for about 6 years, and so I've been in juvenile justice for 16 years. The presentation that we're going to show you tonight is kind of a law enforcement overview of the concerns that we're seeing. We're not here to tell you how to parent or to tell you that all social media is bad, all technology is bad. That's not our intent. Our intent is to build awareness and to help you guys have some skills and tools to use with parenting your own kids. So that's a little bit about me. I have 2 sons that attend Timberlake. Both teenagers, so I'm kind of in the thick of it myself, and I'm learning as a PO and learning as a parent as I go. And I'm going to pass the mic off to my partners here.
Well, thanks for coming. My name's Neil Urig, and I'm with the Post Falls Police Department. I've been with the agency for 17 years, and I now am a detective sergeant, so I oversee our school resource officer initiatives. We have, in our district, we have 4. We're going to have 5 if the levy passes on Tuesday. You guys aren't Post Falls voters, but we're really hoping it passes. I also run our digital forensics lab, so that's my involvement with this topic, is basically when we have bad things happen on the internet, I get called out to investigate it. My involvement, as well as I do a lot of this at the federal level, I'm a task force officer with the U.S. Secret Service, so they'll bring me in for when people get hacked, that type of stuff. So I'm kind of for tonight, I'll be the person that will explain some of the back end stuff, what happens with these investigations.
Hi everyone, my name is Michaela Blood. I'm an alumni of Timberlake High School, actually. I'm a juvenile probation officer, and I'm kind of the person that bridges the gap in our office as far as technology and things like that go. I kind of grew up with it, so it's not super foreign to me as it is to some of the other people in our office, so I try to help bring the knowledge that I have and the awareness that I have to it, and it's something that I'm really passionate about, and it's definitely affecting our youth, and I would say in a negative way right now. So something I'm passionate about, and I enjoy talking on it. Yeah.
Hey, good evening. My name is Greg Hudson. I work with Rathdrum Police Department close to 4 years now as school resource officer, the sole school resource officer for the campuses in Rathdrum city limits. Really enjoyed. Previously, my last stop was in Texas, where I worked for a large school district, and within that school district at a police department, worked there, investigations and campus patrol. So I'm really grateful to be up here now. Last stop. Any questions you have? Maybe you see me around. I don't work up here, but just in Rathdrum, but I try to get out and about. Any questions you have, please see me afterwards, or if I can answer questions during this presentation, please raise your hand. I'll call on you.
Thank you. Mike, did you want to come up, or you good?
No, I had to do all this. I probably don't need this. You can probably hear me. Sergeant Mike, Spirit Lake, woo! Right, home team. Come on, guys.
Thanks, Mike. All right, awesome. So we're going to show you guys, we're going to intro this with a little video to get us started off. Hopefully it's going to play without a hiccup, but we'll see.
long time ago, families were in communities. They were local, they were small.
I was born in the very depths of the Great Depression. I was put to work carrying wood, carrying water. I knew how to shell peas. I knew how to break beans. We still didn't have electricity.
I have 2 Instagram accounts.
I use Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok.
TikTok and Fortnite. I can just scroll for hours on end. 11 hours a day.
It's been 8, 9.
Maybe like 12.
It's actually been a way that we can keep track of them out there in the real world where things really are scary.
The lives of kids were sort of changing slowly for a while, and then all of a sudden, most kids were able to get on social media, and that's when everything skyrocketed.
The rates at which they're experiencing problems continues to increase.
We also know that the teen suicide rate increased 56%.
Last year alone, we received over 18 million reports of international and domestic online child sexual abuse.
We have traded a false sense of safety and security for actually putting our kids in riskier situations.
I call it the race to the bottom of the brainstem. So it starts with techniques like pull to refresh.
Pretty much every guy has like an addiction to it, but no one talks about it.
But it's just faster now, and it's younger.
Well, yeah, like nudes of girls go around the school all the time.
At the beginning of the year, there were multiple suicides before school even started. There were men that wanted to talk to children at all hours of the day and night.
On Snapchat, one thought it'd be a funny idea to talk the other one into committing suicide, and she did it. She's dead.
After about 6 weeks, we were able to crack his phone.
Kids right now are going to experience the worst of what we're going through.
I'm a little nervous.
Do you think your parents know that this happens?
No.
My kid won't do that. My kid would never. My kid's school isn't like that. You're wrong.
Because what they see, they feel neurologically compelled to do.
Right now, we're effectively living in an experiment. How is this going to affect us? We'll find out.
Okay, so that was just kind of a good intro on some of the things we're going to be talking about this evening. This is a pretty broad topic, digital safety, media, social media, mental health, it's all interconnected. So we're going to start out kind of letting you guys know, as professionals in probation and in law enforcement, some of the things that we're seeing as agencies, the concerns that we're having in the schools, that sort of thing. So I'm going to have, Neil, do you want to come up here with me and then we'll go into some of that one. Okay, we're skipping a slide here, unfortunately. That's okay. If you want to go into
Sure. Yeah, we'll talk about NICMIC. You want to just go forward? ICAC. Okay, so across the nation, we have a program called Internet Crimes Against Children, and it's a task force operation where agencies at the local, state, and federal level, we all come together to fight child exploitation, child molestation, and cyber crimes. And so it's funded through Congress and through other grant programs. And so here in Idaho, we have a very large team that do this. Some do it full-time out of the Attorney General's office. Some people like me, we do it as cases come along. But thankfully in this state, we've funded a very strong operation to do this. You want to go to the next slide? How ICAC really functions is some of it comes to us from students. They'll tell us what's happening to them. But a lot of our stuff comes from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. You guys all know Adam Walsh, America's Most Wanted guy. So he's kind of the reason this organization came to be. His son was murdered, kidnapped and murdered, and NICMIC was created. And so they help find missing kids, but for us, they actually help us fight child exploitation on the internet. And so they have a clearinghouse where all tips about this stuff go to one central hub in Virginia and then goes out to whatever state it needs to go to. They're the ones that handle it. Unfortunately, it is out of control. So we have seen a spike in 1 year of 8 million new cases filed with NICMIC. We're at, for 2021, almost 30 million new cases nationwide. So here in Idaho, we are having trouble keeping up with what we have. We don't have enough investigators to do it, so honestly, what we do is we take all the stuff they send us and we look for the really, really, really bad stuff, because we don't have time to go after some of the stuff that's happening in the high school ages. We're looking at middle school, elementary, or even younger. So unfortunately, that's where we're at right now. It's that bad. We'll go to the next slide. Cool. You want to do this one?
Okay, so this is the Idaho Youth Risk Behavior Survey. It's conducted every 2 years in the state of Idaho. I'm sure other states across the nation do this, but this is just some current statistics in Idaho from 2021 that I pulled out. So as you can see, there's some higher numbers on there. The top one there, 48% of kids texting or emailing while driving a car in the past 30 days, 16% being electronically bullied online, 11% texting or sending messaging revealing sexual photos of themselves in the last 30 days. So that's, the sexting that comes in through Snapchat, messaging, texting, all of the apps that the kids have. 44% who felt sad or hopeless for 2 or more weeks in a row. So we're seeing a lot of the depression statistics spike. A recent study just came out from the CDC, especially among females, that it's incrementally higher than it has been in the past. And so we're seeing a huge spike in mental health issues with our kids, especially over the last few years. 21% seriously considered attempting suicide, 67% spent 3 or more hours a day screen time on average. So when you think about 3 hours, that's a pretty big chunk, but that's kids typically, just grabbing their phones, picking it up, they're home after school, they're just mindlessly scrolling. Sometimes they're up. If the kids don't have rules at night where they don't have to bring their phone, into the kitchen or an area, common place, they're up all night on their phones. So this number, it says 3. It could be higher than that. We don't know. This is all just self-reported. 38% that have been vaping or have vaped in the past. So at the end of our presentation, we'll also hit a little bit on vaping. And we did bring some examples for you parents tonight to see and kind of take a look what's going around right now, and then we'll have some resources for you at the end as well. Okay, so this is a book by, her name is Dr. Jean, I think it's Twenge. It's called iGen. So it was back in 2017 is when she wrote this, but it's pretty interesting. So if you look on the graph, in 2007 is when the iPhone released, and then 2012, you can see those numbers, it's just kind of slanting down. That's when most people had a smartphone, is the 2012s. So on this one, you're seeing a decrease in kids being social, getting out of the house, hanging out with their friends, just getting on the phones and self-isolating that way. Lonely, so you see you have an uptick in that, kids feeling lonely, kids feeling left out, they have the FOMO effect, so they see all their friends online doing all this fun stuff, and then they're just feeling lonely and isolated. Similar, kids not getting enough sleep, so you see a big spike there. Again, it's kind of one of those things where if kids don't have, strong oversight in the home, they've got their phones in their room all night, they're up scrolling just mindlessly, they're not getting the sleep that they need, that sort of thing. And then the stating one, I joke that the dads, of daughters are like, yes, less dating, that's great. But really, it's probably just less being social, being out of the house, interacting face-to-face, the phones are just there. It's an easy filler for their social time, unfortunately. So we're just seeing some of that. Devices and Wi-Fi access. I know probably most of you guys already know this. We do have a lot of older generations parenting younger generations. We see that at probation a lot, where maybe a grandparent is parenting, maybe a 14 or 15-year-old. So there's a couple generation gap there that they're not super familiar with the technology. So our kids that we're raising now, they're digital natives. They've never been without technology in their lives. And so when I explain to them, hey, when I was a kid, I didn't have a smartphone. I didn't have this camera, at my fingertips 24/7, able to take all these photos. So now it's a different world that they live in and that we live in. So we need to, be mindful of that. So any device that can hook to Wi-Fi, kids can access the internet, they can access social media, they can access, whatever apps that they're interested in. Wi-Fi access points, a lot of access points are unsecured. If you think about it, you can go to the library. A lot of times, unfortunately, I'm in school right now finishing a degree. I will have to sit outside the library because my internet is not great in Spirit Lake and just hook up to their Wi-Fi, right? So a lot of kids are smart to that, they know. And then any other open hotspots, friends' homes, coffee shops, that sort of thing. So the access is out there. And so just for parents to be aware, if you let's say your kid's in trouble, you take their phone. A lot of times what we see is kids will grab a different phone, their friends will have a phone, they'll give them a phone, there's an old phone in the drawer, the parents are like, well, I deactivated that phone. It doesn't matter. As long as it can hook to Wi-Fi, it's an active device. So just be aware of that for you parents trying to keep an eye on that, because I have to keep an eye on that myself.
So popular applications. Facebook's listed on here, and that's something that we're seeing kind of phasing out. That's kind of the older generation that are utilizing Facebook. Messenger is kind of a dual platform. It runs through Facebook and Instagram now. So a lot of them have that, but they're kind of away from the Facebook side of things. Snapchat is our big one that we see that really kind of we have the most issues with. It's an app where pictures can be sent and received, and they delete within a certain period of time, if not automatically after viewing. Same with chats in that platform. You can send, receive, they disappear. Typically at the most within 24 hours. There is a capability to save some of those in there. TikTok's a big one right now. That's a big time waster for a lot of our kids. The list goes on and on. If you get on the Play Store and just look at top social media apps right now, there's things like Rate Me, which are anonymous apps that link into your Snapchat account where kids can send a picture, and others that have access to their Snapchat can rate them and send messages. That's where a lot of the harassment and bullying are happening, and a lot of the grooming things are happening through those platforms too, because some of our kids are thinking that they're chatting with other kids their own age, and that's sometimes not the case. Cash App, WhatsApp, a lot of those we are seeing being used for buying and selling illicit substances. So if your kiddo has the Cash App and there's a lot of random $10 payments to certain people, that might be something that should throw up some red flags for you if you're going through their phones. The list is always changing. TikTok, I think, is the reigning champ. Instagram is used a lot for a multitude of different things. Roblox, a lot of the gaming apps have chat features in those as well. And so kids can chat with each other while they're playing their games. Parents think that, oh, they're just playing the game. I know at one point we had a coworker, had a family friend that had a young daughter, was on an app like Roblox, was actually being groomed by a male in a different state, and quite a bit older male, and she thought she was talking to a 14-year-old boy. So those things are out there, they can happen. They're great things with social media, but it can be a very dangerous and scary place. So I would encourage parents to just monitor those apps, be going through those. And then Vault apps. Vault apps are these fun little mischievous guys on phones. So a lot of the Vault apps that we see are calculators. They appear and function like a regular calculator app on a phone. However, if you have passcode to get into it, it opens into kind of a vault storage device. You can hide other apps within it, you can hide photos, notes, all sorts of different things. There's a ton of those out there. Another thing that you can always check out through the Google Play Store, the Apple iTunes Store, is Vault apps, and you can see kind of the list of new ones. Our director went through, downloaded one, was able to change the icon of the app so it faked being the Facebook app. So they're really, really difficult to find unless you're combing through phones with a fine-tooth comb. But they're out there, and a lot of kids are utilizing that and using those things. So if you see duplicate apps, that's something that should be raising red flags for you as well. Incognito mode. It's the Google search engine where it's not tracking what you're searching. I think a lot of that use is for viewing pornography, but also searching drugs, guns, things that they wouldn't want on their search history. There's the hidden and the recently deleted categories in your albums on iPhones and Androids. Those on iPhones can be locked, so you can't see in them unless you have Apple Face ID, and that's the only way to remove that lock as well. I've run into that recently in doing searches through probation. Recently deleted is typically a gold mine for finding things that they thought they got rid of, but are still floating around there. They last for about 30 days before they automatically delete from the phone. So sometimes you can find things there. And then My Eyes Only on Snapchat. If you were to be going through your juvenile's phone and you see that little passkey on there, they do have a My Eyes Only account set up, and there's probably photographs in there that you as a parent should be concerned about. If that feature isn't there, it'll prompt you to set it up, and that's how you know that it hasn't been accessed before. It doesn't exist on their phone. A lot of the times we hear, oh, I never set that up. That's not there. I personally have Snapchat. I use it. I don't have a My Eyes Only folder, so I know what it looks like before it's set up. So if you're being told that they don't know the password, they haven't set it up, if that screen is what you're seeing on their phone, they do have it. So I would encourage you guys to just check your kids' phones. Sometimes it's a really tough conversation, but they're conversations that need to be had to keep these kids safe.
Okay, so sexting, I'm sure you guys have all heard of sexting. It's a big problem, huge problem. So what we're seeing now is just this desensitization. We have a generation now that's quite normal for them to send inappropriate pictures. Males do it, females do it. You can see here we have the send, so the blue is the percent sent, the green is received, male, female. So it looks like the highest number there is 33%, age 16, had received, and then we've got the 19% that have sent. So it's out there. The way the criminal justice system tries to address this is through education, because we know so many kids are doing this, but in those problem cases where kids are sending it out, they're using it for malicious means, it's out of hand. We do have kids that are charged with that, and we'll go into some of the legalities of that later, but just so you guys know that does happen, and like Michaela was saying, they are hiding it in some of those vault apps, right? So these boys or girls will get pictures, they can save them in those vault apps, they can save them in their Snapchat My Eyes Only, so they're on there, check the recently deleted. It's happening, so just have these conversations with your kids. What I like to say, I always like to tell this story, it's fictional, but if I ask these kids all the time on probation, I say, okay, so would it be weird, because I was in high school in the 90s, I graduated in 2000, so we didn't have these phones, I couldn't just click and send, a nude picture of myself all over the world. Would it be weird if I took a Polaroid picture of myself, or took a picture, had to go take it down to the drugstore, get it developed, bring it back, hope that maybe one of those pictures looked good enough in my teenage brain to send that out to everybody at school. So I go to school the next day and I start walking down the hall giving this picture out of myself, this half nude picture out to everybody in the hallway. Is that weird? That's super weird. Who would do that? Nobody would do that. That's too weird. But in my adolescent brain, like you would think that at some point there would be a check and balance, right? At every one of those steps. The problem is now with kids are impulsive, their brains are developing, we know that, and that's okay. But these devices are instantaneous, and once it's out there, it's out there. So it's literally a click, and it's out. And then that picture no longer belongs to that student, it is out in the world forever. To be used maliciously, to harm them, it goes on and on. You can use your imagination. So I really try to have those discussions with students and with probationers when we have these incidents come up. I think it's a really important conversation to have.
Okay, so I'll be the scary one and tell you what could happen, and I'll kind of give you an idea of what really happens in a lot of these cases. So in Idaho, age of consent for sex is age 16 with a 3-year gap. And what I mean by 3-year gap is a 16-year-old can have sex with a 19-year-old, but not a 20-year-old. That's illegal. It doesn't go backwards. You can't have a 16-year-old having sex with a 13-year-old. That's creepy. But that's how our law is set up. So it used to be 18 and then they changed it. And a lot of our laws are kind of driven based on worst case scenario. But in Idaho, if you are involved in the exploitation of a minor, that's child pornography, and that's what these sexting pictures are. It's child pornography. You can be charged for the first offense as a juvenile a misdemeanor unless you're being coercive. So what we see a lot of is a student will get it from their girlfriend, she breaks up, and then he starts sending it out to all of his friends. That's a felony. It's only a misdemeanor if you're sharing it between couples. When it becomes an adult, any age of adult, if it's an 18-year-old man with a 16-year-old girl, even though it's legal for them to have sex, it's not legal for him to have those pictures. It is a felony. You become a registered sex offender, it's a bad deal. If it's bad enough and the feds take over, mandatory minimums take place, and like a possession of child pornography, the min for that is 5 years in federal prison. If you're producing it, it's 15 years mandatory minimum in federal prison, and there's no parole. We'll go to the next slide. Okay, I guess you want me to talk about grooming and sex trafficking? So, in our business, and it's creepy to say it's our business, I don't like grooming children, but I deal with people that groom children. And what they are trying to do is lower inhibitions, try to get the child to be able to be open to the idea of sexual relations with an adult. And so they will do this through video games, they're gonna do it over cell phones, they will also try it in person. The most common thing that I see in child grooming is the offenders that do this will buy cell phones for their victims. There's a couple reasons. One, they're targeting a family that can't afford cell phones for their children. So they step in as that person, and it looks innocent. Number two, by doing that, they're establishing a secret level of communication between the groomer and the child. So anytime you see a cell phone that you did not purchase for your child, you need to be highly suspicious of that act. Grooming starts very innocent. They will offer to watch your children. They will offer to show up at your child's events to be supportive so you as a parent become okay with them, and they will continue to groom until they actually get to the point where exploitation happens. As it says here, NCMEC reports that 1 out of 5 girls is solicited online and 1 out of 10, and that's accurate. So part of what I do is I keep profiles online. I'm a 15-year-old girl on the internet, and I get hit on all the time by creepy old men. And so it's very, very true. These are just some of the signs here. I think I kind of went over a lot of this, but basically gifts are a sign. Cell phones are a sign. Secretiveness, those are your signs. We'll go to the next one, and we'll watch this video. And as she's getting this ready, I'll just, is it ready now? Okay. It works.
Turns out he's not here.
Oh.
He had to cancel at the last minute. But wants you to meet someone he works with, and he'll tell you more.
You're not staying with me? I don't think...
Maybe...
So we got to switch the batteries out. We can just move on to the next one. So obviously what's going to happen here is bad things happen in that hotel. She gets trafficked. Trafficking does happen. Unfortunately, we're close to Spokane. There's a lot of trafficking that occurs there. We'll see a lot of runaway girls that will be in Idaho, and then they will go to Spokane either to meet a guy they met online, or it's even girls that they meet online as friends, and then they turn them into basically prostitutes. And so eventually, if it gets bad enough, they will move them around the country. One case that I had, the girl got trafficked in Spokane, put on a Greyhound bus into Seattle. It took us about 2 months to find her, and every single night she was abused. And we were really lucky to find her. So it does happen. So basically, for us in law enforcement, runaways, when a person runs away, it's really, really serious. Because yeah, they don't want to be at home. There's something there we need to look at, but what happens when they run away? Where do they go? Who do they link up with? It can be a really bad deal.
So there are some resources in the state of Idaho. This is a crisis hotline. This particular nonprofit is based in southern Idaho. However, this is a good resource. They can call, text anytime, and they would hook you up with resources in your local area. So we do have people locally that are dealing with this issue, and it's happening to kids. I mean, you think that it's just going to look like your normal prostitute out on the street. That's not true anymore. There are younger, like he was saying, younger female victims. There's even victims, a lot of times, like he was saying, it's going to be your kiddos that are in higher risk type situations. We mostly think of our runaway youth, maybe our youth that are involved in other systems, criminal justice system, child protection services, that sort of thing. But it does happen, and even at super young ages. So